seat.
Look, we got you.
All right, we ready?
Prompt, very prompt.
Ready over there, Kyle?
All right.
Good. All right. I'd like to call to order the December 17th, 2025 Parks and Recreation Commission regular meeting. Roll call, Kyle.
Commissioner Eckert,
Here.
Commissioner Moorhead,
Here.
Commissioner Tyson,
Here.
Commissioner Herdina,
Here.
Commissioner Lundmark.
Here.
All right, we have two members absent. If you're able, please stand and join us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
To the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Item 4, approve the agenda. We do have a slight revision, Kyle.
Yep. We do have someone here to speak on a couple of the items, so we'd like to move the dog park up to number 7 and then follow with the concessions.
Okay.
Agenda as, with the addition, changes.
Karen moves. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Second by Aaron. All in favor?
Aye.
Next item, open forum. I don't have anybody that wants to speak in the open session, so we'll move on to the next one. Approve our minutes from November 19th. Any corrections or additions or revisions? Otherwise, take a motion to approve.
Make a motion to approve the agenda, or minutes.
Second
All
that.
right, we got a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right, moving right along. So now we're moving numbers 11 up to next item, potential dog park location. Dave?
Yeah, so as you're probably aware, the city is looking into putting up a new public works facility. In those discussions, parkland dedication came up. Be like any other development where parkland or dollars would need to be contributed to the city, just like any other project in the city. And it was brought up of a possible good location for a dog park. Or we get too far down that road of designing this into the Public Works Facility project, felt that we should bring this to the Parks Commission and get feedback from the commissioners to see. We're not here tonight saying it should be these amenities or how many parking stalls or what's the inside of the dog park gonna look like. We're just looking for feedback from the Parks Commission of, do we think this is a good location to take parkland from this project and put a dog park in this location. So just looking for any questions, concerns, feedback, anything that we can bring back to our Public Works Steering Committee and also the City Council as we kind of move forward.
Approximate size?
What was that?
What size of land are you talking about?
Yep, so the Public Works project is on 26 acres, so it would be, parkland dedication would be approximately 2.6 acres.
Karen?
Yeah, just, I looked at the design, and I'm not exactly sure if I know where you're talking about. Down by the environmental center,
Yeah,
or?
at the end of the road, past the end.
So if you look on your packet, there's a kind of a, yep,
I could figure it out.
yep. So it's kind of just a little bit south of 202nd and 61, that intersection down there, across from kind of southeast of the airport, would be next to the environmental center and then the proposed public works facility. Some of the thoughts were it's not in a residential area where if you have dogs barking and running around, that you're not going to be residents. About a 2.6 acre area, and it would be highland with trees. It's already trees inside that part, so.
And the satellite shot, is it the yellow circle?
In
for the
that
proposed area?
in that general area.
You know how big, I mean, dog parks can be any size, right? So is that pretty standard? Is it, what
So,
would you say?
like the American Kennel Club, AKC, they recommend city parks be 1+ acres for dog parks. You know, the city parks that we're researching around a couple acres. There are, and we do have someone that will kind of talk a little bit probably more in depth, there are some parks within other cities, but some of those are larger and tend to be more like the county regional park systems, not city park systems. So based off of the information we have available to us, we feel like, you know, city parks are standard 1 to 3.
Adequate, okay.
Karen?
This has come up years ago. We were gonna have that session over by Schillings, and that fell through. Then people kind of use it on that entrance to the library. They've kind of developed their own little dog trail there. I'm in favor of wherever you put it. I think this is a good place. We're the only city that I know that doesn't have one. Even Columbus, they have it at Love's, that little fenced-in area. But it's at least someplace to put a dog. And so I'm anxious to hear from someone else about it, but I don't want it to be ultra fancy. But you heard the advertisement on TV. It's a dog park. It's a dog park. Maybe you haven't heard it. I watch a lot of TV. But it's very,
It's a funny ad.
it's very friendly. You know, dog
Yeah.
parks are the most socialized parks that I understand. And so I'd be just really in favor of hearing from them and then giving my opinion.
Yeah, I'm wondering if there's, if there are other locations, other sites that we're looking at too.
Well, once we kind of get ready to do the preparing for site planning, we'll definitely compare it. I believe that the one that's kind of on the radar for me is, I think it's like St. Anthony, and it's a couple acre dog park. That's probably what's gonna push us to look into which parks is, what do we ultimately decide on, where does it go, how many acres are we talking about, right? We don't wanna start diving into 2-acre parks if it is a 6-acre park or something, but we just kind of want to get this figured out, mapped out, and then we'll certainly start diving into what we have for comparisons.
Okay, well, I know we have a resident who wants to speak also on this item, so Steve, welcome. Just introduce yourself and.
Steve Gedeke, 34-year resident, Forest Lake. First, kudos to the Parks Commission and Kyle for getting the fences up at Fenway for the pickleball
Steve,
courts.
just do your address too.
7632 Hilo Lane North, Forest Lake, Minnesota. So kudos to you guys for getting that done. Great collaboration. They'll get used and they'll improve the safety out there. So nice call. On the dog park, two things to share. One, I've been a dog owner for 30-plus years, and my wife and I have traveled extensively around the United States, so we've been in an easy 100 dog parks. There are a lot of bare minimum, not very pleasant dog parks, and sadly, they fall into that 3-acre zone where you're talking about. They tend to be in cities that don't have a lot of land. They're minimally acceptable. The really good dog parks that draw a lot of people, two really close ones here are the one in White Bear. It's 10 acres. If you go down there any time of day, it's full of people. The dog density is actually relatively high, even with 10 acres. The 13-acre park that is down in Rice Creek in Shoreview is fully open. There are no trees in it. It's an old farm that they just repurposed. That dog park is extensively used. You can't, most times of the day, you can't find a parking spot there. That's how popular it is. People get drawn from all over for it. It is a great place for people to go exercise because the humans can do a large loop. It's almost a mile around the whole thing, and so people will go and do loops, they'll chat. So it does bring that exercise value to it. I am very strongly opposed to a 3-acre park in Forest Lake. I'm very concerned that there'll be the expediency of getting it done to check, and the box will be checked. Oh, we have a dog park, and we will never have a truly spectacular dog park. We're a rural community. We have space. There's land around here. Let's do something like Hugo. If you've ever been to Hugo's is unbelievable. I mean, it's so there are really good parks around that serve as a reference point for us. A 3-acre park will be a massive disappointment, and so I'm here to express that and to let you know that I hope you pause and don't just do it because it's expedient with the maintenance center and say, well, we've got the space, let's shoehorn it in and let's get it done because it makes that a more politically viable event for the community. I think that's the wrong thing. So back in 2013, I worked with the city to try to get a dog park. So I think you remember actually, Karen. So I gathered, I think it was 340 signatures.
Exactly.
We raised funds from some of the vets around town, donated thousands of dollars into a fund. They ultimately had to get that refunded to themselves. That was going to be at the end of the north end of the runway. So it's hard because I don't have a map with me, but for those of you who know Forest Lake well, the runway at the airport goes north towards the YMCA, but it slightly angles off to where the maintenance building is going to be. At the north end of the runway, there used to be that big pile of dirt on that piece of land. Remember that? Nobody knows what I'm talking about. Can you put it up on the screen?
You're talking about the south side of the airport.
No. You're right, I'm sorry. South side of the airport. Yeah, that's why everybody's confused when I talk about that. South side of the airport. So it's Kyle and I were going to calculate the land there. I forget how, but it's much larger. It's much more on the scale of what you have in Shoreview or in White Bear Lake. The beautiful part about that piece of property is that walkway that goes over to Fenway, it ties the dog park in with Fenway. So you have a lot of people that come for sporting events. That's a really central jewel of Forest Lake. And people, if we put one of the gates on what would be the northwest corner, it's a very short walk from the Fenway parking lot. So we can reuse that parking lot. And then I'm sure that we could probably strike an agreement with Washington County to use the transit center parking lot, which is not well used at the moment. I understand that gets a little more complicated, but that would be on the other side of the park. So we got 2 good parking facilities. We have high density housing over there. So there's a lot of people that live right there that can use it in that community without having to cross Highway 61. It's tied in with the YMCA and the library. Again, a lot of traffic, a lot of foot traffic. It's a beautiful site. And when I talked to the airport's folks back in 2013, there was no objection to putting a dog park there. So I'm a very, very strong advocate of that location because of the tie-in with Fenway. Yep, that's the spot right there. So alternatively, when I was talking to Kyle earlier this week, there's another piece of land. There's another 6-acre, I guess it's 6 plus 3. So there's about 10 more acres that are adjacent to the piece that you see in your brochure. That's currently not part of the development for the maintenance facility. But that land would, Kyle, if you put your cursor on that other piece of land up there so that they can see it. Yep, right there. So that is just adjacent to the maintenance building. And again, rural residential area. It's already got trees. It's got topology to it. It would be it would be my second choice. It would be a really beautiful place to put it. And when you have either of those spaces that you have there are large enough to do what many communities do, which is separate the small dogs from the large dogs. It really avoids a lot of conflict. So if we did the 3-acre park, what we would probably find in a few years is we're going to put a fence down the middle, just like White Bear did. Now you have a 1-acre park for the small dogs and a 2-acre park for the large dogs. It's a really unpleasant experience. And again, I've been to hundreds of these, so I can speak as a reasonable authority here. I think if we had a 10-acre park and we had to do a 2-acre small dog park and an 8-acre large dog park, especially people who have big dogs and they want to take their chuck it and they want to throw the dog or throw the ball, tennis ball, 100 yards and have the dog go get it and wear the dog out, you really need. So that's probably enough of my speech. I just want to really add 2 key points. One is please don't do the easy thing and have it be the wrong thing. And the second thing is we have at least 2 good options in Forest Lake that I think with some vision and passion and drive we can make happen, and they would be spectacular. Any questions about?
Can you pull up the first area by Fenway that he's referring to? Just curious.
Yeah, right there.
So it's that,
Can you-
Because if we did Fenway, you'd definitely have to do more parking.
Well, yeah, so, yep.
Parking is a issue now.
Yep, and this is part of the airstrip, and Dave, I don't know if you can share more on the crash landing.
This is the crash zone, so you can't build anything there.
Yeah, but they didn't object to having people walking there. So I did talk to the airport's folk back in 2013 about this. There are other dog parks in the metro area that are in these same zones, and it's not excluded.
We'd have to look, because that has changed since 2013, the runway wasn't paved, and
Okay.
the runway has been expanded.
Yep.
So we'd have to check, but
And it's also not a part of MAC, which could be different regulations.
Again, we have to know, I'm not standing here as an expert and saying it can be done, but I think it should be investigated.
Karen?
I just can't thank you enough for being here, because all I hear is we want a dog park. We don't want one that's not usable. Judge Judy does not like little dogs and big dogs together. They're always in court. So we have to have it big enough to separate them. And when I said, I don't want fancy, I don't want a whole bunch of ding-dongs hanging around, but they have to have some benches.
Well, so I'll give you a little history on the White Bear one. I don't know who built it and how it got done, so somebody has to fill in all the gaps, but it was pretty bare bones when it first went in. They had an ag fence that already existed on the east side. They put up some additional fencing. Where the money came from, I'm not certain. I think the parking lot was dirt at first. Again, check on that, but it's a relatively small parking lot. There were no bathroom facilities, there were no water, there was no small dog park. There was no protection in the park around the wet areas there, so the dogs would come in and they'd roll in the mud. So the citizens collaborated, they put some fencing around the wet areas to keep the dogs out. They ultimately built a bathroom down there. 10 years later, they built a little out structure so dog people are just happy to have the dirt to walk on. And if it takes another decade to get benches and trees, and no one's gonna care. They're just gonna be, look, so I walk my dog every day on that path that goes by the airport. I walk from 61 out to the ball fields, around the whole thing, around the other ball field and back. It's about a 1.8-mile loop. You'll see me out there all the time. And there's always people there. It's a very, very busy place. And that's not fancy. There are no bathrooms, there are no benches, this is nothing. It's a bare dirt road that people are thrilled to walk on. Don't think it has to be pretty. It just has to be there and be big, and the rest of it will happen. And I will say, I think it's an easy thing to fundraise for. So I sent Kyle some pictures. My wife and I drove down to Kentucky this summer, and we just took kind of a random path, and we stopped in this little community. Couldn't have been more than 4,000 people. And they had this beautiful dog park, and I took pictures of it. And the guy who was there was a guy there working. I said, "How'd you guys pull this off?" And he said, "Well, we did a thing where we have a fee. The residents get a card, a little swipe card. And they pay $20 a year, whatever it was. We can call and find out. It wasn't very much. I remember when he told me, I went, "Oh, that's not bad." And so they get in, and if you want to use it and you're not a resident, you can either buy a year pass or you can do a couple bucks for a day pass. And it's just one of those electronic gates. But they had a building with bathrooms, and it was probably a 12-acre dog park, small dog, big dog place. They had some features in the dog park, like teeters for the dogs to go on and other terrain things that they could weave around. But this little community built it. And the other thing they did, I showed Kyle in the pictures, they had a lot of sold space for like the local vet service, an insurance guy. And when you have the amount of linear fencing that we're gonna have in a dog park, especially if it's a place I'm advocating for where people see it from 61, and they see it when they go to the library and they go to the transit center and they go to all that high density housing, you will get money for that. I mean, you can sell that space and cover some of those expenses. So I think we can build out a really, really nice dog park.
So just for kind of wrapping things up, for the sake of time here too, But one thing that's important, I think, for the commission to just note that some of the parks reference are county, they're county parks, right? They're not the cities, but certainly I think, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, I think the point is you would like to see, you know, more research done on maybe some more land to be done, expanded there if possible.
Well, I'd like to see us start with a vision. When I was leading businesses, my line to my people always was, forget what you know, just think about what great would look like. Let's start with what great would look like. And I think what we think, if we want Forest Lake to have a great dog park, it's gonna be 10 acres, it's not, or, you know, 6, 9, it's not 3. I know 3 is not the right answer. So if it's gonna be a great dog park, it's gonna be substantial in size. And over time, it has to have a pathway to get amenities. And if it's more visible, we want access, so it's gotta have good parking, people have to know where it is. I mean, we could write this down, right? This is not hard stuff to write down. And I think if we want something that's supportable and vibrant over the course of time, the place on the south end of the runway is an area where with the signage we could sell and the access to Fenway, even if it's just people coming from outside the community for ballparks and tournaments, et cetera, they all have their dogs. I see them when I walk over there all the time. They can walk over and use the dog park. It's gonna leave a really positive impression of Forest Lake. So well, let's start with what great would look like, and then let's figure out how close we can get.
All right. Thanks, Steve.
Maybe we could get some of those, you know, we got quite a bit of money last time, and
Yeah.
we could do that again.
Yeah, it was disappointing. I mean, and I was just one guy going around with a tin cup, and I was thousands and thousands of dollars, so.
It's very needed here, and it's very, very popular with people, so I don't think we'd have trouble finding some extra
So
dollars.
what
Dave and Kyle, I think you got some direction, some feedback, and
I think we ultimately want just, yeah, the direct feedback of the location. Is the commission on board with that being the location, knowing that there's maybe some potential for expanding, no guarantees there, but certainly something we can look into.
How big is this one?
So I think it's built in like 2.6 to 3 acres. But again, it's more so just the potential of the location there. I think that's what we're looking for with the site.
So the dog park is on the capital plan for 2028. So to his point, yes, you want to design a dog park and you want to look into it. The reason why this came up now is because we're talking about the public works site. So the question is, if we want to explore this, we probably should carry this with. If we don't want this dog park here, then we go back to the public works steering committee and say we don't want a dog park there, and then we move on.
But what's the, because I know we've said Tower Park, you know, some things could change there. Could that be a potential spot for
Really muddy.
for a change?
Certainly potentials, but something to bank on with a lot of unknowns. I don't know if that's, timing wise, not sure if having it in the 28 CIP, if that's all gonna work out, because we don't know. The tower could be there till 28, could be there till 29. We just, it's a large unknown to just bank on that space.
I got you.
Not to say it couldn't be considered.
Maybe I can add one other comment, is that piece of property that I'm talking about is currently leased for farming. I spoke to the farmer one day when I was out walking my dog. He was out tilling land, so we had a meet and greet. And he told me he pays about $60,000 a year to lease that piece of property to farm it. So it is city land already, so we don't have to retitle it. It's not zoned properly for a dog park. It's zoned industrial, Kyle told me, but look, the keys to the zoning are in this building, so it's not a hard thing to fix. I think if the city wanted to be bold, and I do believe in bold, I would separate this from the capital improvement plan for the maintenance building, and I would just have the Parks Commission say, we're opening a process to build a great dog park, and let's see if we can fundraise for it. And let's go out and start the journey now and find out how responsive the community is and see how much money is available to raise. And I don't know why wait and why tie it together. You're gonna find out there's a lot of passion about this. People are gonna come out of the woodwork to help make this happen. So I would vote you cleave it.
Why I asked about the 2.6 acres, myself, when I did have animals, we had 10 acres and they still ran off, so, you know, it wasn't far.
Don't take it personally.
Right. But, so, I hear what you're saying, and you visited a lot of them, and, I mean, wanna just have one to have it done, or do we wanna have a, you know, nice one? Do we wanna put it in? I think that's where I'm laying with it. I do think it needs to be bigger.
I like the idea of exploring the
separating it.
airport area, see if it's even doable. And then
Little
go
dog
from
park
there.
over here and a big dog park over there. Ooh.
That's kind of one thing that staff has talked about, this, there's a really good chance that eventually you're gonna probably have another dog park somewhere else too, just with the expansion. So it's not to say that this is the one and only that you'll get. It's just kind of looking at past studies and demand of dog park is high up there, and this is a good opportunity to get something there. We have the space, it's all kind of come into fruition now, so that's for you guys to discuss. If, I think ultimately, we just want to know if we want to explore this as part of the dog park, or Parks Commission recommends to not have it there.
I would be a no vote,
Do not have it there?
Well,
not have it there and to explore and have someone on our committee when indeed we get to plan another.
What-
Can help us design.
What would be the hard date for saying, yes, we want to put it in there from a planning perspective for the public works? So is this something we can look into more before a decision has to be made to say, yes, that land is now slotted, or?
Bring it back in January, but that would probably be where we're switching from schematic designer to design and project. You gotta either include that in there, or you kind of don't. Or you just axe it off and then it becomes its own sole project that in 2028, when we have that dog park on the CIP, that's what it's talking about.
Unless we
Because I'm-
find a fundraising.
Yeah, I mean, I can start talking to people again and see if the Parks Commission is open to it, and if you said, Steve, come back with $100,000 and we'll put it either in of the other two 10-acre locations, I'll look at that challenge. You know, if that's what it takes is $100,000 to do it, I don't think that's gonna be that tough.
Dave, are you able to by January meeting explore the other, if there's restrictions on those other properties, whether it's airport or leasing and other things?
The land that's southeast to that public works site that he's talking about, public works, that's our. In the public works director, we're not gonna give up that land. That's the only land we have that we can bring material.
I think there's sentiment to explore, is there any spot that's viable in this area? I don't think we should just,
I think if you wanna do a full-scale search, then you don't keep yourself to this one location. You might look the entire city. You may look up at Bixby Park up by.
sure.
Park up there, or down south, or up in the northwest, or whatever.
Yeah, there's nothing special about this location.
No, the only thing special is that you have land available, that you get parkland dedication, zone where you're not gonna be bothering people.
I would maybe add one thing though, Don, that when Blake and I were talking about this on Monday or whatever, he really liked the tie-in with Fenway, and that if it could be close to Fenway, that it does enhance that location. And this piece of runway, this piece of land at the end of the runway isn't really usable for much else. So if we could turn that into a dog park, and if we can get that approved, I mean, it's gonna sit there empty forever and just be farmland, right? I think it would be nice to look at it and take a serious look at it. And again, what would great be? Let's try to start with what great would look like and figure it out.
Final that I don't think it belongs where it is. It's not enough space. I'm not gonna wait. I've waited so long, and I didn't even like dog parks in the beginning. I was thinking, what in the world? But I was very much convinced when the people came out of the woodwork and offered money, and it was gonna be, and then we're gonna have one, and then it was
I know.
wetland. A lot of stories about it, and if we just put it off and put it off, it's not gonna happen.
That was 2013.
Look at that.
12 years has gone by.
I don't have that many years left, so I wanna have a dog park, but in the right place. I don't think that's the right place.
Any other commission member comments that give guidance to the staff?
I just think I don't know what I don't know, because when I read the notes for the agenda, I thought 2.6 sounded okay. But, you know, from people who have experience with feedback, I don't know, it's kind of like buying an RV that's at the limit of your truck and going, I think I'll be okay. Because if you put it in there and it does get traction and a lot of traffic, and then it becomes an issue where now it's too crowded because it's too small, then I've got a 2.6 acre dog park, and I'm gonna have to look at putting another one in somewhere else in the city just to be able.
Well, the other thing happens is the really small ones don't get used, because like my dog, I won't take my golden retriever there, I can't throw a ball.
All right, let me get the commission member comments. Steve,
Sorry.
Melissa?
Like I said, when I first heard the amount of space, that's why I asked, what's the typical space? I feel like it's a small space.
It seems too small to me. I would be open to checking out that airport site, see if it's truly viable. Maybe if there's something else. I mean, this one is small, but I think we're looking at just spending money on that with little benefit.
I don't think we could get the community to put the money in. Greater, but if it
That would be interesting hearing what Washington County might be willing to do too, because they have, they've taken community input, and I know it's high on their list too. Yeah,
Well, I
Don,
could
you-
almost tell you what that answer would be, Steve, but we don't need to go there. It's a
Yeah.
different jurisdiction. So one of the challenges is the Public Works project's under design, and this is part of that design. So if the commission feels that they don't want the dog park there, we can let Dave know tonight. We can cross the site off, and then Dave can work towards a 2028 CIP project for doing a search somewhere.
But I heard.
That's what I would suggest.
So, do you want to somebody want to make a motion to that then?
Direction.
This direction's good.
You don't, we don't even.
You got a direction? Okay, you got enough, you got this.
Okay.
You got the consensus of what we're thinking. Okay, all right.
Don, if I wanted to try to have the city open the opportunity for community engagement to somehow fund a larger park somewhere before 2028, what's my mechanism as a citizen to try to
It'd
get
be
that?
work with Kyle.
Okay, so let's try to find a,
just like look that way.
yep. I mean, it might be a pipe dream, but I'd rather try and fail than not try.
Yeah, so I think we just need to separate this. This one is just all about this, so we got our direction on that. If Steve reaches out to Cal and it becomes an agenda item in January, February about changing our CAP and having more desire to look at a dog park, then we can discuss that. So we got our direction for tonight, and then if Steve works with Cal and we want to bring that back early next year to do more discussion on just a dog park, I think we'll look at that beginning next year.
So I need one more point of clarification, Don, I'm sorry. So as a citizen, Kyle's got a bunch of priorities. Obviously, I'd like this to be number one. I come in and say, hey, what dirt can we use in the city? He's got 55 other conflicting priorities. How do I move this along in a timely fashion, knowing he's got a lot else to work on?
What you do is you call Karen, and you call Karen every day and say, you need to tell Cal to put this on the agenda.
I like that idea.
Okay.
Yeah.
You understand my question, right? I don't want to, I want to try to get something done before
It's
2028.
in jest, but if you reach out to the commissioners and say, hey, I reached out to Cal, I'd really like to have this a topic on an upcoming commission meeting, that's your way to.
I'm sorry, I need his time in the meantime to look at the options and see what the barriers are, and somebody has to look at the land at the end of the runway and understand the rules. That's not a commission activity, that's a city activity.
So what you're gonna need to do is you're gonna need them to give Kyle and I direction to start looking into it.
Can I request
You're
that?
gonna have to have an agenda item to actually say, hey, dog park's not on our radar until 2028. We have residents that would like that moved up. Do you want, Parks Commission, would you like staff to start dedicating time to move up that time frame to do a deeper dive into this? And yes, then that would bring up looking for locations, looking for costs, looking for layouts, everything that comes with that.
Can I make that request tonight, or I have to come back in another meeting?
Are our email addresses on the park website,
So I think all the contact on the page, I'll double check.
or the city website to the Park and Recs?
What he's looking for is,
How
are
about
we
we
in
just
agreement?
put
Yeah.
this on the January agenda? How does that work?
What's,
How's
what's,
that work?
what,
That
what,
sounds
I'm
great.
sorry, what's the,
That's what he's asking. That's what he's asking for.
Yeah, send an
didn't hear you,
email.
I'm sorry.
Easy on everybody.
We'll put it on the.
Email
On the
to ask.
January
I don't know if I'm in town in January. What date, what's the date of the meeting?
21st.
21st.
I won't be available.
Oh.
February 21st. I'm in town February 21st.
Could he start a citizen committee? I mean, he's a citizen here, and, why couldn't he just start a citizen committee and
It's still gonna have to
Still
come
need
to the
to-
commission,
yeah,
and
we
it's
still
gonna
need
have
to-
to
But
go
if we
through the hoops.
say tonight that we're,
Yeah, certainly he
we've
could
got
start,
someone here who's willing to do some work, and we've been waiting since 13 to get this on, so if he wanted to start it, then
Would
I'd
it
like
be
to.
required for
Do
him
we have
to
a-
be
do we
here
have a
at the meeting
simple-
For us to put this on the agenda? We see your passion, we feel it, I mean, I think all of us can feel it. I think we get it on the agenda, we talk about it, and then you can see the minutes, and then we'll go from there. So let's start talking about it.
I always
as
get a
soon as
little
possible.
nervous when I'm not in the room.
Let's start talking about it as soon as possible to get it moving forward, because I'd like us to think about it so we can maybe build it in 28, but not wait till 28 to actually start talking about it, so.
I think my first request from a staffing perspective, though, is I think we need to understand what land might be available. And that does seem like the city needs to go look at the books. I mean, happy to stare at maps with Kyle, but I think before anything else, we gotta see what the options, we're not gonna go buy a piece of property to do this, right? We have to have something.
So just respectfully here, for, this item's not on the agenda tonight, right? We do have to move forward with the agenda, we have agenda items. I think it's fair to say that this will be on January agenda in some form. And as long as the commission supports it, Steve and I can start conversation, just what that agenda item looks like, build out a timeline for what does this project look like, and then move forward from there.
Perfect. You're easy to work with, so that'll be fine.
Okay, well, thanks, Steve.
Thank
Okay.
you for coming.
We're gonna go to number 7 now, staff report on concession operations agreement. That's Dave, I believe, again.
I'll lead that one.
Or Kyle, sorry.
Yep, so just the brief history is last year was the first year for concessions. High Points is FLA, operates the concessions at Fenway Park. It's something that FLA manages I believe the restrooms while you're there. They've done like all the toiletries.
I don't know where that's falling now with the city taking over the prepping of the fields and everything.
Sir, can you come up to the microphone if you're gonna, why don't we wait and you can make comments if you need to, if you get questions asked or clarify later.
Yep.
So let Kyle make his presentation first.
Yep, so in the past, FLA's ran the concessions, they've ran the operations in the Fenway building where there's bathrooms, they've maintained all of that. This is the first year that we ran the agreement in 2025. Just pretty straightforward, draws out the responsibilities of the concessions operating room. Just kind of clarifying that, FLA owns all of the items in the concessions area, all the cookers, and they bought the refrigerators, the grill, all the inventory that's used for the concessions. So just looking to re-up both FLA and the city, have agreed to the terms in the agreement in front of you. One thing that we did request the revenue and expense from the concessions, which we have not received yet, but FLA is working on getting those over to us. So certainly it could be something that if, assuming you've looked over the agreement, it seemed that both FLA and the city feels like it worked well this past year. That if we're supportive of that agreement, we can definitely do a recommendation for council approval upon receiving the revenue and expense report.
Aaron?
There was a question in there that during their events, they would be able to keep the concession money, is that correct? Because I think that's part of the way they keep the funds down for the young people that come there. And I would hate to see us take money from.
So the only expense that they have is to pay the utility bills. They don't pay rent of the facility. We don't take a cut out of any of the revenue, whether it's gross or net.
Okay, so you don't cut into their, okay.
It's they pay the utility bills.
And that was agreed with FLA?
That was our previous agreement, yeah, but, hi, I'm Myron Plautz. I'm Vice President of the FLA organization. I live at 6485 184th Street North, Forest Lake.
Thank you.
Been in FLA 25-plus years, been Vice President for over a dozen. You did change the agreement this year because now you're prepping the fields and stuff like that, right?
This isn't anything to do with the field
Right.
maintenance, it's only concessions.
Okay. So it has changed. This first year it's different. So the concession, but we've had concessions contracts for many years previously.
No, nothing's ever been on file with the city and FLA for concessions agreement.
Really? Okay, because I thought Al had done some stuff like that. All right. As far as taking care of the concession stand, yes.
I don't know the entirety on the bathrooms and the cleaning and all the,
This is just the
Supplies.
concessions agreement, so we don't
Okay.
necessarily have any. It's just to state that you guys had been doing that in the
Okay.
past and.
okay. I mean, we would probably do it on the weekends when stuff is going on, but on an everyday basis, we'd have to think into that, see how that's going.
This will just be for the concessions agreement for inside the,
Okay, all right, that's fine. So, yeah, as far as the funds, the concession runs on weekends when we have a tournament, great. Every night during the week when you have maybe 1 or 2 or 3 games, if we don't have like at least 3 to 4 games, it's generally a loss. So there isn't a lot of money made or a lot of money lost, it's pretty much a break even. And we can get that report to Kyle. I know we're working on our budget and stuff for next year. We're a little behind on that, but yeah, the equipment's all been purchased by FLA. FLA built the stand with the help of the school district and some money from the city. I don't know, that's 15 years ago. So there hasn't been a whole lot of money made or lost on the whole situation. It's not a big money maker. But it's a requirement to have sports there because people rush there at 6 o'clock at night to play games and they don't necessarily get a chance to stop at McDonald's or Burger King or wherever, and it is food available. So that's how it runs.
Karen, you had a question?
Well, it goes back to my same question, that on the weekends, when you do have a lot of people there and you do sell a lot of concessions, and they did buy all the equipment and the building, and whatever, so I don't want the city to squeak in there and then say that they're gonna take part of the concession money that they make on
So
the weekend.
if you read the agreement, you should read the agreements when you're approving them. But the agreement says that we don't care what kind of money you make or how you run the concession stand, you just pay the utilities. You pay the sewer bill, the water bill, the electrical bill. And after that, if you're open 7 days a week, 1 day a week, whatever you want to do, you can do. That's all we're asking. In exchange for you having exclusive rights to run those concession stands. All the city wants is to cover their utilities that the building is costing. It's costing lights to be on, the water to run, all the, sewage to go down the drain, all that. So I mean, that is what,
That part of it is new. They didn't pay,
not new, it started last year. So the agreement that was agreed last year, it's basically a continuation of the agreement last year.
they're happy, I'm happy, but they've been kind of like many times pushed away, and so I want to make sure that they're happy. If they're happy with the agreement, they know more
Signed it
about it.
last year and they've already signed
Last
it,
year, yeah.
their side of it this year. So they must be happy if they have signed their side of the agreement.
But I don't have,
One citizen has spoken before you guys speak too much.
Steve, any questions for Flaw?
And then, so I would ask 3 minutes and then keep it relevant to the concessions agreement.
So this agreement is part of one of many or other agreements that you have with FLA. So I want to ground the commission on what the story is with FLA right now, and what my concern with FLA is. FLA has a charitable gambling license. Their top line revenue, money they took in from gambling was $20 million.
Steve, keep it relevant to the
It
concessions
is relevant, I'm
agreement.
getting there. And they give out $17 million in prizes. They had $3 million in net remaining after paying prizes. Only $30,000 of that charitable gambling money went to FLA. I think it raises a question about the public good in some of FLA's activities. And I understand that the board has an opinion that FLA's been generous to the community with building some of the things out at Fenway. But I was deeply involved in the ice arena transaction that happened, and that was not.
Steve, we're talking about the concessions agreement.
Yep,
So
okay,
if-
well, there was context given about the fact that what FLA had done in the past, so I was responding about the other negative that was there. So I think I talked to the city or the district about this. So a single field house event for volleyball nets $14,000 in profit. And I think that we're underestimating how much money is made out at the field house. And only 50% of the people that participate in FLA are Forest Lake residents. So the other half of the participants are not Forest Lake residents, and there's no differentiation in the cost between. I think this agreement is part of this first leg of the stool is part of a broader question about how the city and the citizens in Forest Lake interact with FLA, given the magnitude of the dollars involved, both capital and annual spending. So I would like to see this slow rolled and put into a more productive context about the magnitude of the dollars.
So can I just clarify? So basically what you're stating is to have some sort of different agreement where FLA is ultimately paying some sort of revenue share. That's what you're ultimately,
Yeah, best practices, as defined by the University of Minnesota, are communities have agreements that have a minimum cost for these organizations and a revenue sharing. In the past, FLA's had a contractual agreement with the city that they would provide their audited financials. They consistently refused to do it. This request for the P&L is 3 weeks old. They haven't provided it. They have, in my opinion, as a citizen, is not transparent. I think we need to use this as an opportunity to be transparent. Many of you have the history with FLA, with the way that the landscaping was handled and the flow of money associated with that. This is not a happy thing for our citizens. And this is yet another step forward in the relationship with FLA where we're not managing the relationship, we're not managing it the right way, we're not demanding the right level of transparency, we're demanding the right level of collaboration. So I am laying on the tracks with what seems to be a small agreement and saying we need to have a more balanced relationship with FLA, and transparency on FLA's part is critical.
thanks.
Any commission questions for Kyle or Dave?
Need a motion?
Yeah.
We are looking for recommendation of the agreement, again, knowing that council ultimately has that final approval say, but obviously when we bring that report, they're gonna wanna know if the commission recommended the approval of the agreement. And again, just noting that FLA has agreed, the president, Paul Kozak, has signed the current proposed agreement. It just has to obviously go to you guys for recommendation.
Motion that we recommend that the agreement continues as it did last year.
Okay, Karen made a motion.
I second.
All right, second by Sue. Any more discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All right. And Kyle, when you get, January, you get that report, we can look at it in January then.
Yep, certainly can bring that back.
Okay, all right. All right, number 8, annual
I'll say,
Parks and...
Don, adding the language, it is something to discuss. If you guys do want to add the language that council approves that upon receiving the revenue and expense, if you guys choose to. You don't have to, but you can choose to add that language into the recommendation, which I would.
I think that's what Karen was doing. Yep.
Get it done.
All right, Parks and Rec report, annual report.
Thank you.
Thanks, Steve. So just a background, within the ordinance for commissions, it is, I would say required, I guess, that there's an annual report provided to the city council by January 15th of just an overall, reflection of the past 12 months and the commission, what the accomplishments were, what we've done, what the commission has been a part of. This is a report that I put together on behalf of what the commission was accomplishing, and then the involvements for community events and open house or the grand openings and such throughout the year. So the report again just highlights things that we've gone over in meetings, what we've accomplished, policies, agreements, discussions, and what events we were out at for the year. Pretty straightforward report, but just wanting to put it out there if there's anything that any commissioners would like to add to it. The report goes to council here early next year, but feel like we highlighted everything that is pretty appropriate. So just wanted to put that in front of you guys and get your feedback, and then I guess recommendation to run that report to the council.
You did a nice job with that, Kyle.
Made us look really good. We're really busy.
A little bit concerned you're setting a high bar for us in 2026, you say, but
We got big plans for you guys. You don't know it yet. We got big plans.
Oh, boy.
do you need anything?
Yeah, just I think recommendation.
Yeah, unless you see anything else, then just a recommendation to share this with council.
Seeing heads not up and down, we recommend sharing this with council. All right.
The only thing I didn't see is because several of us volunteered throughout to run that booth at the Arts in the Park.
Oh,
I do have in there the,
Okay, I just
included
wasn't
attending
seeing.
pickleball group gatherings, assisting in arts in the park.
Okay.
Can certainly highlight it more, because I mean, it was a larger.
Yeah.
But, yeah, I know it's kind of tucked in that summary there.
Okay.
Does that suffice, or do you want, I mean, okay, no, that's good.
Thanks, Aaron, for that.
Yep.
All right, let's go to boat races. Seems like, might be tough to have a boat race right now, but
Gotta go fast.
Yeah, unfortunately, you gotta plan that stuff, well in advance, right?
yes, we do.
So we've been approached by a organization that's very adamant, and I believe this organization has ran events in Forest Lake before. It's something that wasn't a part of the proposed or approved 2026 budget, but they're adamant. I think there's been previous history with good results with these types of events on the lake. And really, our only option of working with them at this point is to get recommendation to do so, noting that there's not budgeted amount for it. It is something that this group has agreed that they would work with us to collect sponsorship. That's pretty standard practice, is that if they go to a city, the city will pay the upfront. The costs are for like divers, insurance, they all have to purchase their own insurance policy. Like I said, the diving team, and then I think just other miscellaneous costs involved with getting the race set up. Something that's not really built into that cost is our own public works team has to take several hours to tear down buoys, put the buoys back in the lake, and other prep work done. So it's something to be cognizant. I mean, while they are city staff, that's just still taking them away from their other duties. I mean, there are some costs that should be involved with hourly with that, and I've talked with the organization on that. They're open. Staff, I mean, would love to see all the events in the world, but obviously for us, it's more, trying to plan these things out and kind of get more jump on it, but really just looking for recommendation of pursuing this event, knowing it's a good one. There's some downsides with running these in the park, closing the beach down, maybe not closing the landing, but the landing is super jammed up. Doing it in early June, maybe you're beating that crazy summer busy time, but you're right there. And then really just prompting more conversation, even about more special events of this type of nature when they do close down in Lakeside's obviously our primary park and attraction this summer. Is there any, thoughts on running this event? How do we feel about maybe pursuing it, or other conversations around events that are going to be shutting down a whole park?
So Kyle, yeah, in the past, I remember snowmobile races on the lake. Did the city fund those? No, okay. And then what about like the plunge that has divers and stuff? Is there any city dollars in that?
I don't believe so. I think that's all Rotary.
Rotary.
Okay, so,
Although the city has helped with setup when they weren't able to do it on the lake. The city did, I think, put a lot of resources into setting up the pool and the parking lot.
okay, what does UMBA stand for?
Put me on the spot. It's some sort of like boating organization.
So it's not a nonprofit.
Nope, it's a for-profit.
So, I mean, we just heard concerns about the city subsidizing one of the nonprofits in the city, and I'd be concerned if we start spending city dollars on a for-profit company without knowing what their P&L is. I mean, I think we open ourselves up to residents ask questions. This is a for-profit organization. If they got sponsors, forget about I shouldn't say it that way. That's even without including the public works time that would be help subsidizing a private operation. My initial reaction is they should be paying the city for the public works time to work on this, if it's really that great of an event.
Is this different than the boat races that we've had on a regular basis?
So it is a different organization. This is more like a drag race style, where I believe the Baker Memorial it's a separate event. The idea is that this would be it'd be more of a draw type event, not necessarily a parks event, but a more special event to draw people, into the city, maybe for an economic boost is kind of the idea, but obviously they would need support of the Parks Commission and then who ultimately pays for some of those expenses that they're requesting.
So what would be the estimated cost for the city in this?
$500, 60 plus?
Well, but I think you're asking about the additional,
Yeah,
like with Public
throwing
Works.
staff labor and all the other stuff in as well, because I'm wondering, to his point, they are a for-profit, so what's the estimated all-in cost for the city, and then what's the estimated revenue that's gonna come into the city from the event? Do they offset? Because if the city's at a loss for a for-profit company to have a race, that's an issue.
Yeah.
I think this one's probably not worth doing too deep of a dive. It's, pulling in the buoy, it's, could we get a special event permit that actually, what their exact requests are? I mean, and Cal and myself have been pretty good to say, we're not providing you trash pickup, we're not providing you this. Yes, we'll pull the buoys out of the water for this event, but we're trying to get really good at not offering up public works services for these events. If you want to have a service, we'll give you the permit to use Lakeside Park, but it's all on you after that. So I think this would be the same of, yes, pulling in the buoys. If we need to pull that in, that would just be a absorbed cost, and say no to anything else other than that. I mean, back in the day, it was the request of, can you have somebody there that changed the trash cans while our event's going on? Can we use your dumpsters to get rid of it? That has all kind of transitioned out of that, where if you want an event, giving you that park and the rest of it's, on you to run your event.
I'd be concerned too, Dave. That's 2 weeks before the 4th of July, which is probably the biggest event in the city, and you got crews busy working on that. We didn't even talk about, if I live on that lake and suddenly that lake is closed off for drag racing on a Saturday, that's beautiful. It just seems, you can see where I'm headed with this. I'm not supportive of, I'd rather spend $6,500 on a Let's Go Fishing program that's gonna help kids than this for-profit boat race.
Ran into those concerns even with that other boat race that we have, that we shut down that landing, and you get into that weird point of, next thing you know, we're having boat race and all these events, and that landing's closed every single weekend. I mean, want to get down that point either,
This is a drag race, boat race?
Yeah, it's like just a straight line drag.
line.
Yep.
Fast boats.
That other one that we have is just around that
It's more of a
circle.
track race. Yep.
So with that insurance policy too, does that include cleanup? Because when these drag boats wreck, so when they wreck,
Oh,
they
yeah, if they
spill,
crunch in the water, yeah.
they spill stuff and it's a cleanup, and I just want to make sure that insurance policy, if they did go through with it.
Yeah,
covers that.
they would have to pull county. So when there's open water involved, that's a county permit. So all of that would be covered under the insurance to the county and all that. But
And is the lake big enough for a drag race? I mean,
they've done it before. The recommendation, I think, I believe, is like not to be closer than, it was 600 feet to the shoreline or something for something like this. There is a standard guideline. It's just more of, the conversation around shutting the park down, taking away park space, that's, I think, our biggest concern from our standpoint with the commission, is to say, we don't want to just do this, because it does sound like a great idea to bring the event in, to bring people down to the park, and that's great, and there is an economic boost there, but it's also taking away park space, and that's something that, likely residents will ask, well, how do they get to do this? And that's more or less what we're kind of looking to cover.
And that other race that happens 2 weeks after 4th of July, right?
it's later in the summer.
Last year was in August. I don't know that there's always a set,
Okay.
but it's usually after the 4th and sometime around that August time.
So how does the commission feel about giving guidance that we're comfortable or not comfortable with shutting down the park and that lake for this? And then the second part would be, if we aren't comfortable with it, then
I'm not comfortable with us paying.
Yeah,
they're paying, okay, so
They're
it's clear,
for-profit.
it's clear we're not comfortable with the 6,500 or any subsidy.
yeah, I'm fine with the date and using
If
the
I want
park.
to take the pavilion there at the park, I gotta pay,
Yeah, they should
right?
pay.
And they're gonna
for-
lock down the whole thing? and we're gonna give them $6,500 and they're for profit, I struggle with that.
Well, their restaurants would benefit, you know, but for the city to pay for them to have their event, I don't think that's,
That's pretty good information for me to take back.
Okay.
I think just one other, just touch on that, just with the 6,500, I think that might be a discussion for next year as well of how does the Parks Commission feel about events, right? And do we feel comfortable with sometimes subsidizing an event to help get off the ground? Are we completely always against it? You know, all that in between, you know, and I think we should have a broader discussion on just that, because I think Kyle gets ideas in all the time, right? And we know that the commission is strongly against subsidizing any events. When they come in and say, hey, I got a great idea, but it's gonna cost you 5,000, then we just move on.
I mean, if we're gonna subsidize anything, to me, I've gotta see a balance sheet to say you need to be subsidized,
are they making money?
right? Because if you're making money hand over fist and then I'm giving you more money, that's a problem.
But I think that Commissioner Tyson's point too, is it a non-for-profit, right? Is it a name your, like a church group or something like that that
Right.
says, hey, we want to start doing this event, or a local, you know, chapter. We really need to get off the ground with this. We think it's going to be a great idea. Can you help us get off the ground in 2026? We hope then it's going to be a great event and we're going to get, so I think, I don't want to get in the weeds here, but I think Kyle and I have talked about that too, to bring that as a discussion item of
Sure.
how do we set these parameters so when he's getting all this stuff in, so we don't waste time at a night going, we didn't even to bring this here because we already know the answer to that.
Right.
Yeah, there could be some, maybe not a full policy, but some guidance for staff. So that's a great discussion, Dave, to have next year. Okay. All right. That's why we're setting a high bar for next year.
Let's go.
Yep.
All right.
Dog parks and everything.
All right. Last item before adjournment, St. Peter's parking lot agreement.
So first, a little background on St. Peter's parking lot. When Belts Park was getting reconstructed with the basketball courts and the tennis courts, and the full playground and all that site work, staff presented two options to the city council. One to put in a parking lot and one to put just a trail. And I believe I included those two trends in there, correct? I kept put them in there. So at the council meeting, resident, which was Karen, came up and highly said that St. Peter's has been basically allowing for residents to park in their parking lot. And not only should we not build a parking lot, that we should be, you know, paying St. Peter's for the use of their parking lot. Council went along with that and directed staff, myself and Jolene, to negotiate a contract with St. Peter's Church. That contract was negotiated last November, and we entered an agreement for a one-year agreement that we pay them $5,500 for, I believe, 30 parking spots, and we clear their snow along the sidewalk along South Shore Drive. So this year it came up for renewal. Staff wasn't opposed to that agreement. It was put on the consent agenda for the city council, and Councilmember Miller pulled it off the agenda and asked for the background, basically what the background I just gave you. He was not a big fan of that agreement and questioned whether or not the Parks Commission has ever seen that and approved that, which you had not because you were not a body at that point in time. That was before March of this year. Lathan Blake, or Mayor Roberts, and Councilmember Erickson were still in full support of it at the council meeting. At the end of the day, it did pass and they approved the agreement. But there's a termination clause in there that they could get out of this agreement. But what they directed myself to do was bring it back to the Parks Commission to look at that agreement and get your feedback on that, whether you think this is a great idea, you do not think this is a great idea, you think we're paying too much money, you think we're not paying enough. Overall thoughts even of the parking lot discussion of, you weren't around for that whole discussion too, to provide recommendation to the council at that point either. A lot of kind of things here, but any questions, comments, concerns?
Karen?
I have to go back a little further even than what Karen Moore had said that night, because we had a big Belts Park community rally down there, and we had the beans in the jar, and we asked the community what they wanted, we asked the commission what they wanted, and everybody wanted a bathroom. So Father had said, if the bathroom is there, they will quit using the church, and he would have no problem with the parking lot. Everybody was happy, except the bathroom never came to fruition and never really was seriously talked about again. Once one person said we can make a porta potty closer to the church. Crazy talk like that. But the reason I was supportive of it when I supported it is because none of that happened. And I thought, when the community rallies and the commission rallies and everybody rallies, and then Father's happy and then nothing happens, I thought, okay, now something's gonna happen or should happen. But then you went and put those spots next to the park, which at first, when I drove out there, I thought, that's crazy. Someone's gonna run out between those cars and get hurt. But I watched it all summer, and it has really worked well to have the parking spots along the side. It didn't create any kind of problem that I ever saw. We also have parking spots across the street on 11th, the wrong side of the street probably, but at least they can get there and park there. So I've changed my mind a little bit, but that's my feeling on the parking presently, but I will always be against, I think. Isn't that? But right now,
You always think.
I always think too much, because I do not like the idea of using that quality parkland for a parking lot. And when I was on the former commission, we outlined how many spots you could have and how they could get in and out of that parking lot, and it looked like it was a complete disaster to try to have very few parking spots in there, give up all that parkland, and then still have it be a danger to that corner, because it's such a busy corner, to have people pulling in and out. So I'm gonna listen to this one now, because I'm kind of in the middle of everything. I wish it would have been like in the beginning. It's not, so.
All right.
Adding a parking lot, I don't believe is gonna eliminate the parking in the church parking lot. People are still gonna park there. So if we have to pay them to do that, I guess, that makes sense. But I don't know that we wanna pay to put a parking lot in and then pay the church, because we're not gonna avoid people parking in that row. I don't believe, so.
Dave, maybe for context, did you have an estimate for the cost of the parking lot?
Yeah, that's what I was gonna ask.
It would have been well, if you'd have done it with the project, it was approximately $100,000.
It'd be more now, a little bit more.
Be more now that you'd have to go back in. The only thing we did do is Karen's favorite ponds that are out there, we did design it with the stormwater to accommodate a parking lot in the future.
So basically 18 years ROI on paying to put in a parking lot?
And
And
then
in
the
18 years, you're gonna pay to redo it again anyways?
The grand thought of it was the parking lot is that central. You have that playground, you have the trail coming in. There's gonna be a future, some type of a gazebo, your volleyball courts, ice rinks, all that will be all centralized with a parking lot. And now the parking agreement is parking people in a lot far away, and then they have to walk, and then now that's why most people are just using the street, because why would you park all the way at St. Peter's and then walk all the way back to the park? There is no connection, there's no trails that connect the park to St. Peter's, except for the sidewalk along.
Go ahead, Karen.
I'm really sorry. I've heard so much negative about part of it, and I always hear positive about wanting that parking lot. Staff has wanted that parking lot way back when, and no matter what comes up, it always is the parking lot. Like, we're not gonna let it go no matter what anybody thinks, because we want that parking lot there. And that's fine, they can do that, but I think they should listen to others about how much it's gonna cost to make it, how much loss of the park, and then how much are you going to have to pay to plow it and keep it open and whatever. I mean, there's a lot of expenses to that. I would like to see maybe a new agreement with maybe less.
I guess the biggest, why staff says that is because if we name the Dollar Tree wants to come in tomorrow and build a building, we're gonna make them build a parking lot to handle the people that are gonna be using the Dollar Tree. And why we say we need a parking lot is because we're building a park, we should not be saying, okay, we're gonna build this, but then we're gonna let somebody else take care of our parking. So
I don't think that street parking's gonna be okay, and
I'm saying street parking is fine, but I think that's why staff always leans to that parking lot, because we should accommodate parking for the people that we are bringing to that park. And to ask whether an agreement or not, it's no different than another business coming and say, well, we're just gonna, kind of like the dog park. You wanna put a dog park, well, we're just gonna use Washington County's parking lot. Well, okay, that sounds great, but that's also not our parking lot. And then do we have to have an agreement with Washington County? Do we, so that's why when staff develops these things, even like that dog park that we proposed, we put a parking lot there. Because you want to accommodate, if you're putting in an amenity, you want to accommodate parking for the people that are coming to what you're doing. On-street parking, yes, it's public parking. So we already factor that in. That's why we stripe those spots and we put a handicap spot there that try to at least show people, yes, this place is the park. I don't think we're trying to jam a parking lot down people's throat. We're just, our best practice of what we would require anybody else to do is what we're just recommending that we should do, because that's what we would ask somebody else.
And I'm personally fine with us paying for it. I would prefer to see a longer term agreement rather than every year we're going back through this. And then you lock in a price and that price is locked in. Not next year we come and now the church is coming to the city and saying, well, we want $7,000. Following year it keeps going up, because then at that point, if we're looking at potentially an opportunity to put in more parking, at least we know what our spending is going to be until that agreement's over. So the 1-year agreement's the one issue that I have with it. It's too short.
One thing to consider is like this winter, right? We have the ice rink. In years past, we've been able to just have vehicles drive right up into the park. Well, being that this is a path, we're not allowing that because it's not going to be best practice for the path, right? You run the risk of breaking that up. So now we're going to have people parking on the street, walking all the way to the rink. We have a lot of grandparents that go in there with their grandkids are now going to have to walk a long ways to that warming house. So that's going to be some risks, and it's going to be probably a lot of complaints coming our way. And that's also another thing about that. It's going to be a really heavily used park. And while, yep, maybe that parking lot doesn't even take care of all the people that are going to be there, it's going to get them that much closer to the park, coming a lot. And I think the parking lot just takes away a lot of that issue, especially in the wintertime.
So my question is, instead of putting it where we've got it on the diagram, I'm looking at Belch Park, the actual pad for the park. You got the pavilion. Could you put it in that space, that there's green space in that corner? That way we're not taking up and splitting up the big green space right there in the middle. Would it be possible to put it there? And then you're right next to the park too, which is great for grandparents with kids.
I think, I mean, Dave might weigh in. I think there is that hill right there. I don't know how well that would work. I think there's a hill coming off 11th that would probably eat up a lot of that green space up top.
Okay.
You're probably losing about a third, between a third and a quarter.
Some of this is partially my fault, and we're getting away on the parking lot thing, I guess.
Yeah, so we
want to kind of weigh in on this, just the agreement.
yeah.
The other parking lot thing is, I did my own personal sin as I got off my own topic, so.
Yeah, so the agreement, I mean, we really have to have the agreement because you're not going to get a parking lot built
Yeah.
for
one
next
year.
year. So would everybody like to have the agreement be cheaper? Sure, but it is what it is. You have to negotiate it. I get the 1-year thing too, Aaron. It's, flip side is just for the same reason that you said.
Well, if we are gonna talk about putting in a parking lot, then the 1 year's fine.
Right,
Yeah.
But
right.
if we were going the route of we don't want a parking lot and we're gonna go with the paying, I would say I would rather lock in longer period.
Right. And it's also then getting the church to agree, which we don't want to negotiate that here, but, so I think Dave, the
Status quo.
report to the council is that we support, well, I shouldn't put words. I think what I'm hearing is we're okay with the agreement for next year, but I think there could be some discussion though in the future of Bell's if we put a parking lot. And your point that you would never let a business come in and not build a parking lot for their customers. And so it's probably worth another discussion in the future on this parking lot.
Yeah, because I just don't like the placement of where it's at there. I mean, if you turned it and then put it right up against the trail that runs from the road down along the park, then at least you're not chopping up all that space.
Only problem with that is whenever the people are there watching at least there's some spaces that they could park, and, because I do see that, living in that neighborhood, they park their cars there, and the littles get out and do the skating, or, and then the grandparents are sitting in the car being able to watch it. So if you've got that over here, you're not,
Oh, it doesn't block.
yeah, you have, 5 or 6 spaces there where you could be right looking straight at that ice arena. I don't really see a ton of play going on across that green space right there, it's all up in that basketball and the volleyball.
The sand volleyball was gonna be there.
I know,
Yeah.
and I told the young volleyball players that we were gonna get it, don't worry, it's coming, so.
Another
So
agenda
we're-
item for January. Boy,
Another,
we're gonna have a long one.
we're teeing up, some items, so, okay, all right.
So what I'm hearing is Parks Commission is fine with the agreement, continue on. There may be some additional discussion about a future parking lot or
Yeah.
parking overall with belts, but the agreement, Parks Commission is fine with that as it is.
Okay,
Yep.
all right, thanks, Dave. Okay, staff updates. Staff updates.
So we got good news, our Veterans Memorial Committee. I worked with the committee on writing up a grant for the Minnesota Historical Society. Spent quite a bit of time on that grant and with that group, and they were awarded an additional $210,000. And that's gonna take care of that center sculpture piece.
Great.
So we're
Great job.
looking, yeah, we're pretty excited about it. Gonna probably go tour the facility that it'll be done next week. Nothing can really start till January 1, just being with the grant for the fiscal year. But yeah, we're hoping that 27, because it's about a 9 to 12 month process for that centerpiece to get done. So that's exciting news. The postcards that we discussed about Bayview Park, those should be going out this week here. I think there was 300 plus addresses that we pulled that were all in that general area. So we feel like that's gonna be a pretty good amount of feedback with those questions we talked about, the basketball court, no court, other. Budget update, the budget, everything's been approved. We're gonna be taking on that dirt work at Fenway. So staff is figuring that with purchasing equipment, getting prepped on what we need to figure out for scheduling. We've added the scheduling software that we talked about, I think, at the last meeting too, to ease that pain a little bit, working with those organizations. Anything else on that?
Bayview was approved as part of the budget.
Yep, Bayview Park was approved, part of that budget. The Let's Go Fishing. So at that last meeting, I think Karen might have mentioned the being open, and the commission agreed that we were open to getting them maybe some funding to help get going. And so Dave and I talked about that, and we got an official ask from Keith, who presented, asked for up to $10,000 from the parks programming, which we did have some leftover funding. Council did approve to give them that $10,000. So that's gonna get Let's Go Fishing operating. So they will for sure operate starting in '26. And yeah, so they're gonna start doing their volunteer push and training push. So that's also good news. Parks Master Plan, we had just a first call, getting that moving. Josh with Bolton and Mink's putting a lot of information together, survey stuff. I'll be talking with him tomorrow just to kind of get us ready for that next meeting. Just introductory meeting, but I think we're going to be in pretty good shape, hitting the ground running after the holidays. Outdoor rinks, we are opening up Friday. Excited, the Hockey Association is going to be, I think, Monday through Thursday for about 3.5 hours a day. So they're gonna be renting, quite a bit of ice from us throughout the season. So we're just kind of getting that finalized with them. That's gonna be really good. But yeah, rink should be up and running Friday, hoping that this weather kind of holds up and stays cold for us.
I was the second person to like that post by the city.
Oh, yeah, the rinks, good, good. Yeah, we're excited. A lot of hours go into that, and public works staff, I mean, overnights, all-day shifts, but it's, we got a lot of positive feedback last year. I mean, a lot of folks said that was the best ice they've ever had here in Forest Lake, and our warming house staff heard that often. So I think it's worth it. I think our staff, overall, it's a big ask, but I think they also enjoy it, and it's a win-win.
Just curious if the city ever reached out to the Mallards to see if, because their players, part of their agreement to be able to play junior hockey is they have to do so many hours of community service, so that would be a perfect opportunity for a community service.
Did talk a little bit, that item got brought up with Matt, the retention. I'll revisit that because we didn't really go forward with that or talk more. So I'll revisit that with Matt.
Not really the hockey association, but the Minnesota.
The actual Mallards. I think
Yeah.
they're just a really good connecting point for us because they're kind of tied in with them, so. Hometown Holiday, had a really good event. I know, saw some of you down there. It seemed like a great turnout. For how cold it was on either day of us, we were pretty fortunate to have good weather. So yeah,
Excellent weather.
yeah, thanks for those that came down and helped. I think Sue and Karen got your hands dirty with the hot cocoa and.
Yeah, we had hot cocoa all
Need to
night.
tell them to add a barrel of it next time.
Yeah, we ran out fairly quickly.
That's better than bringing some home though, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
Oh, absolutely, and it was the best, I think, tree lighting that I've ever been
Good.
to down there, so kudos
Better
to.
every year, so that's great. I wasn't here, so,
We
Yeah,
filled
I was
in for
out of
you.
town too,
yeah,
but
good.
My wife liked the
Thought you were
format.
Olaf.
She didn't like the
No,
one
not
year
this
where it
year.
was a bunch of people doing presentations or dances and stuff like that, and you're sitting there forever, so she definitely liked the quick speech and let's go, light it up.
Good. And then last thing I have, is just, we have the commissioner spots, that need to be filled too. Just want to make an announcement. I think, not to put Karen on the spot, but I think it sounded like she was interested, but we have two spots to fill. So January is the last meeting for those terms, and we'll be trying to have two more commissioners. So you guys know anyone that you think would be a good fit, put it out to them and.
Two vacant spots have to reapply?
Yes, yep,
Oh.
yep, so reach out to me, if you have questions on it, and I'll certainly help navigate that with you. But it is something you gotta reapply for. I think it's on the city website for, commission applications. So
you can use one of those QR codes you like.
Yeah.
probably just fill it in for you.
I'm gonna go in person right up there, now that we have these beautiful trees, I'm gonna come right up in person.
Well, I think we'd all love to have you continue on the commission with your history.
Sometimes it's
Karen.
good, sometimes it's bad.
Well, it's good to have that history
Yeah.
on issues, so appreciate it. All right, Dave,
Just to reiterate that commission meeting, if you know, I mean, just like Kyle's year-end report, we're doing a lot of cool stuff here. We're doing policy, we're getting events, we're building parks, all this. So I mean, get the word out. I mean, the more people that are energetic and want to be on this group, the more we can do, so it's great. I think it's amazing. You read back through that in a short year with a bunch of new people, all the stuff that we accomplished. So starting in January of next year, knowing already what we're doing. I mean, look at January, we probably added 5 things on there just today.
Yeah.
Second thing is Kyle never likes to take the credit, but that grant that he got, he put a lot of time into that, and it was huge. I mean, I don't think that statue would have been in for 5-10 years. To raise $200,000 is a lot of $100 here, $500 here, but I saw the grant that he filled out, and it wasn't a one-page, yes, no, yes, no. It was a lot of time he spent on that, so he did a great job. Not only that, but all the agendas, all the stuff that we're doing, he's putting all the packets together, he's reaching out with residents, he's doing all this stuff, so he's really working hard for myself and for you guys. right? So I want to show that appreciation. I don't know if anybody knows how hard he's working behind the scenes to make it all come together.
He answers his phone.
Yeah.
He answers his phone. That's a big one for community.
Yep, so I think he has great ideas and he's doing a great job, so I think with this commission and Public Works behind him and what he's doing in the Parks program, it's just, this whole Parks system is.
Dave, is that grant going to be recognized at a council meeting in the future?
There was a public
Press release?
for it, and then it will be, at the council meeting, will be brought up by myself as well, so.
Okay. And even when that and then that annual report we talked about is presented, it would be certainly call out Kyle on that for, so. No, thanks, Kyle.
Well, thank you all.
So, all right, commissioners, updates. Aaron, anything? Karen?
I just had one, and we kind of answered it tonight, you know, been discussion on whether that's a good place for the ice arena, or for the ice, for the, not the hockey, but just the regular skaters. And some people have been asking where in the world they could park, because they used to park in there and sit around their cars, and the skating rink's right there, the warming house is right there. And I said, I don't know, I think it might have been a problem that we'd have to look at, because they can see their kids skating from maybe far away, but to go in and help them with their skates, and, you know, it was just always a little section of there that they could have for that, and we're not gonna have that, are we?
No, we can't, just with that path, it's just not a good mix.
Just something to think about.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sue?
I just had one question for Dave. So the new utility building, when that happens, what are you doing with the old utility building?
Public Works building?
Yeah.
It's up in the air. I think you're gonna have Public Works and probably this Parks Commission fighting for parkland to make that whole
Yeah,
area
that's
park.
kinda
And
what I was
think
thinking.
you're gonna have community development, EDA, fighting for that to be developed into multi-unit. You know, there's apartments on both
really?
sides to
Oh.
tie that in. So I think when that time comes, there's gonna be some big discussion. Cal and I already have some pretty big master plan layouts of splash pads and ice rinks and all this stuff there. But EDA has tax base that they're looking for too. So I think that's not gonna be an easy discussion. I think we're both, a bunch of people have eyes on that
Yeah,
property. And
yeah.
that'll be
More grants, Kyle, more grants.
So yeah,
All right,
that is
okay, that's
definitely
good.
be a
Yeah.
topic for discussion when that time does come.
Melissa?
Nope, just thinking forward to spring, hoping we do a spring fling of some sort, like they have in the past, so hoping that that's on the agendas and that.
Yeah.
Yeah, spring fling, I think that's what we call it.
Is that the one that they typically do, like here with the fire department?
Chamber
police
does something at the lakeside with like Easter eggs and stuff
Yeah.
like that.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
And then over in the fire department, they have like some bounce houses and stuff
Yeah.
like that, and,
Quick question, Kyle, for you. Did they officially get our meetings moved to 6 o'clock next year?
Yes, so sorry about that. Starting January will be a 6 PM start. And that's gonna align all city meetings for a 6 PM start, which is, I think,
Okay.
important.
All right,
Thanks for bringing that
so
up.
that is going to start in January?
Yep, January. I'll send out a reminder too, and we have a new
Okay.
calendar that I'll get out to you guys as well.
Okay. Well, I just want to thank too the commission this past year. We started hitting the ground, not even knowing each other in
Yeah.
March, and the annual report shows we got a lot done. It's been a fun group to work with. We've had some sticky issues, but we talk them through and get them done, and thanks to Dave and Kyle, and even the planning department when we have the issues come for us, and looking forward to next year. And for folks watching this, certainly, depending on when you watch it, hope you have a happy holidays and safe holidays, and see everybody in 2026. So with that, a motion to adjourn?
I second.
Oh, I guess I made a motion.
Oh, I like your motion.
All right, all in favor? Aye. All right, we're adjourned.
Merry Christmas, everybody.
Merry Christmas.